Hello folks, thanks for coming back to our channel. I'm glad that you're here. My name is Colleen, and tonight we're going to talk about the Nesco electric small batch canner. This has really been a handy instrument for us as just a single couple, but I think it would be equally useful to families as a whole. So I'll gather up all the ingredients and I'll be back in a moment. Hello and welcome back. So this is the Nesco small batch electric canner. This is not a new item on the market, but it is certainly new to me. I was looking for an electric canner and found that most electric canners are not meant for high altitudes, which we are where we live. So I did quite a bit of research before stumbling across the Nesco, which has interchangeable weight settings so that you can change out your weight from under 1,000 feet for 10 pounds, and then over 1,000 feet we have the 15-pound weight on. So otherwise we would not be able to use an electric canner at this altitude. They just aren't set for us. It has a really clean, simple face, and I think that you might find it interesting. I'll give you a close-up look at it in a moment. So this small batch canner will hold 4 wide mouth corks. If you're familiar at all with the jars, the standard jar has a smaller lid, but it's also a bit taller, and the taller jars won't fit in here, so it needs to be a wide mouth jar. So for tonight's purpose, we're going to be dry canning some sausage that I found at the local grocery store that was a good price, and I didn't want to miss an opportunity or pass up a chance to put something away in my cupboard that was, reasonably priced. So tonight we're going to work on packing it into the jars and putting it into the canner. The canner works similar to the Instant Pot in that it has a liner that comes out, and in this case this liner is coated with some sort of a non-slip coating, and it has a rack that we'll put in for the jars to sit on, because you don't want your canning jars to sit right on the bottom of your canner. It can cause too much heat on the very bottom and not even distribution all around the jars. Next, this is such a simple thing to do. Next, we're just going to take some clean, freshly washed pint jars, and I'm going to open up a package of sausages. Now, we're not cramming these into the jar, although you can dry pack all kinds of meat and press it quite firmly into the jar. We are just going to make sure that we get these in a kind of a comfortable manner. So there's 3. I'm going to try and wiggle this around to get, sorry, that was 2, to get the 3rd one in there. Now, don't be tempted to cut the ends off, because then it just becomes ground meat. And it isn't a good idea to raw pack ground meat. So it will keep them all inside the casings this way. It doesn't look pretty, but it works perfectly. And because we're going to be putting the meat directly into the jars, and they will make their own juice inside the jar, I am quite happy to not have to sterilize all the jars, because they're going to be pressurized at 15 pounds pressure for 90 minutes. So it's not necessary to do that. And so these are fully cooked coming out of the jar, and that's probably the better way to do it. No jokes. And so we don't have to worry about the jars not having enough moisture in them, because the meat has lots of moisture that it will put off, and they will be perfectly fine in here. I will dry pack some other things for you in the future, just so that you know that it's safe. I'm actually going to remove these 3 and put them in as I did the second 2. So I'll just give them a little curl and push them into the bottom of the jar. Now, lots of people over the years have become frightened of pressure canning, and I looked it up to try and find out if anybody had ever been killed using a pressure canner, and I couldn't find one case of that happening. Long ago, some pressure canners were unstable, but if you use them according to the manufacturer's directions, the chances of you having any problems with them are very, very slim. I'm just going to get a wet cloth so I can wipe the jars off to make sure that there is nothing on the rim of the jar that could interfere with the seal. Now, some people again would use vinegar in this case around the lip of the jar. It might cut the grease if you manage to get it on the rim. I don't feel like I did, so I'm satisfied to do that. Of the 2 packs of sausages that I had, I have 1 sausage left. But I'm not at all comfortable just putting 1 sausage in a jar, so I'm going to put this one in a bag, and Gino can have it tomorrow for his breakfast. So we'll just screw the lids on to finger tight. One of the biggest mistakes that canners make when they are first beginning is that they want to screw down the lids really tight, and that will cause your lids to buckle when they start to pressurize, so don't do that. So I'm going to set these 3 pints inside my canner. Now this works so well because if you do, like I often do, I'm used to cooking for a group of people, not just 2 people, so I often make too much, maybe 2 pints too much. So I don't feel bad about bringing out this Nesco small batch canner to do just a couple of jars. It is something that you can have put away so you can have a really quick meal. Sometimes you just have to reheat it. So this is an advantage if you're a cook like that. Now, you never want to run a canner that isn't full, because these canners are, as all pressure canners are, they're tested with a full load on. So if you find that your canner isn't full, and in this case I only have 3 jars in my canner and I can put in 4, I am going to fill this one with water. And I'm going to put an old lid on it, one that's been used before, and then I'm going to tighten down the seal. I've made sure that it's got only 1 inch headspace in it because we want it to be a true test, right? And I'm going to put it in there. Now, if you had lots of jars, you could just leave the water in there because you're going to have perfectly sanitized, high pressure bottled water when you're done with this process. So I would be happy to, if I had enough jars, I'd be happy to just put the water away, because you never know when you might need to have bottled water to take with you somewhere. The last thing I'm going to do before I get the canner running, or the second last thing. So the second last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add 4 cups of water to the canner, and that will help build the steam and the pressure inside the canner. And the last thing I'm going to do is just add about a teaspoon, maybe not even that much, of vinegar to the canner. And the reason that I'm adding the vinegar to the canner is that we have very hard water. And after a while you notice the scum build up on your jars. And if you do this each time you can, you don't have to worry about the scum on your jars. Now, the last thing that we need to do then is to lock it up. And then I'm going to come around the front to show you how the settings work. So down goes the lid, and then we turn it into position to match up the closed cymbals. And we set the pressure valve at the back to exhaust. And I will come around the front and give you a better view and explain the setting. As you can see, we have a very simple interface on this machine. It has a dial for water bath or steam cooking, slow cooking, pressure cooking. You can even brown with this machine and then carry on if you like into a different pressure setting. Today, because we have pint jars in the canner, we need to adjust it to 75 minutes. So we're going to go pressure cook on high, 75. To do something. I mean, we should hit the start button. Now you can see the symbol going around on the face of the dial. And when the steam inside the pot has started to exhaust, then we will get an E10 show up right here on the face. And at that point then, the machine will start to count down 10 minutes as it builds the pressure inside the pot, at which time then we need to close the valve. But it does all the work, and it will tell us when we need to do that. So I'm just going to let it carry on working, and I will be back just as soon as it takes the next step. Now here, folks, you can see that we've achieved the E10 on our cooking time. So now it will count down and begin to exhaust steam out the top of the pot. And we will be back as soon as it has reached the countdown phase. So hang in there with us. Now the pressure pot has reached E0, so we know that our countdown is over. So we're going to switch the valve now to sealing. And it takes, probably about a minute, and then the pot will start to do the countdown of 75 minutes, which is what we asked it to do. And once it reaches that, we're going to leave it for probably overnight now, because the pot will automatically shut itself off, so we don't have to worry. I would never go to bed with it on, but I will certainly wait till the 75 minutes is up and be sure that it shut itself off, and then I would leave the lid on and allow it to cool naturally until morning. If you were doing this in the daytime, you could do multiple batches, but this evening is when I chose to do this. So I hope that you've enjoyed this video, and well, folks, there is the sausage after having sat all night in the canner. It is completely cooked through, and as you can see, we didn't put any, or if you remember, we didn't put any water or anything in the jars, and yet they have plenty of juice in them. It doesn't matter if the sausage is above the rim of the jar, because it has been well sealed inside there, so they'll stay moist until you're ready to use them. I hope that you've enjoyed this video, And you could look for more of these canning videos in the future. If you liked it, please like it and share it, and hit that subscribe button. We'd really appreciate your likes and subscribes. And take care. I hope you have a fantastic day today.